Good morning, it is I from the future. I got this theory video done and recorded in multiple segments, but I realized that if I uploaded it as one video, it would be over 4 hours. So what I'm going to do is split the two videos into two parts. Part 1 is going over my thoughts and speculations and ideas of Madam X's Identity. The second portion of the video will be about the Zen Grunts, talking a little bit about each one, going over some other theory stuff, more so revolving around Team Zen, and a little stuff outside of that as well. And then finally, we will conclude it with my thoughts and feelings on V14, on how some stuff may play out, and then the usual outro of me saying goodbye and giving my thank yous to you guys and the developers. I wanted to add this at the beginning of the video so you guys are aware of it, so Good morning, and I hope you've been well. In today's video, we will be finally getting into a theory video going over the identity of Madam X, Team Zen's goals, some speculation and theory ideas revolving around the game itself, and we will conclude this video with my thoughts and feelings and speculations on how V14 will play out. Before we do get into today's theory video, I do want to get into some updates and other news how this video will play out. If you don't care to listen for whatever the reason may be, that's a-okay. Go to the comment section below, timestamp there, skip ahead, yeah. But if you do care to listen, it would be greatly appreciated. So the first thing that I want to get into is the obvious. This will contain heavy spoilers. If you have not completed the game from the beginning of the prologue to the very end of Karma Files, I would not recommend watching this video, but if you don't care for, again, whatever the reason may be, and you just want to sit down and watch it, I guess whatever floats your boat, I guess, do whatever you want. But again, this will contain heavy spoilers, and I want to at least give out a warning here and now before we get into all of that. The next thing is how this video will go down. I want to go about it in 4 segments, as I said at the very beginning. The first topic being Madam X's identity, the second topic being Team Zen's goals, the third topic, some other theory ideas revolving around the game itself, and then we will conclude it with the final topic on my feelings of V14 and how that's all going to play out. Now, the next thing is, unfortunately, this video is just going to be me simply going off of memory, and we all know that my memory can be very, very terrible. I would love to spend more time researching, really editing this video out, adding clips and scenes and yada yada. I don't have the time to do that. I've sang this song many times, and most have noticed on the channel the moments where we have a decent amount of uploads, but then it kind of gets quiet after a week or two. I now work 2 jobs, just in case if there are some people that don't know about that. I made an update video and a community post going over that, I think a month or so ago, so yeah. But if you don't know about that, you know about it now if you're watching to this point, so do keep in mind that I'm working very long hours. I would like to go all out with this video. I don't have the time to do that. If I need to, I can fly around to different areas to point out what I'm referring to, of course, but again, I really wanted to really edit this out and really just get my research and really just organize all of this, but it takes time, and my time is very limited, so apologies in advance. Now, going back to the memory thing, if I do get stuff wrong, if I remember something, or even as simple as some people may disagree with my thoughts and feelings on different theories, sorry in advance. It's a-okay. It's not the end of the world. I rarely ever get anything negative, maybe once in a full moon, but it's very rare. Mostly it's positive, and I've been very, very thankful and fortunate of that. There's a lot of amazing people that have checked out this channel, and I'm extremely grateful to you all. It's been a very fun ride, especially with Pokemon Rejuvenation. It's a game that I believe to all of us is held deep within our hearts and our mind, and again, just thank you for all the love and support. But again, If there are some things that I get wrong or I misremember, please don't get mad at me. There's so much to this game. It's difficult for one to remember every single thing. There will be mistakes, there are things that I will miss, and I just want to make that apparent here and now. With that being said and done, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I really need to say. Not that I think of, so I think with that being said and done, let's get into today's video, and starting off with the topic of Madam X's identity. So before we get into my list of candidates that may fit the role, I want to say this about Madam X. There is a lot of unknowns about her. Now, of course, the game has thrown a few bones here and there at you that you can pick up and see with her personality, her character, potentially her goals, the phrases and sentences that she says throughout the game that can correlate with a numerous amount of characters within the game. I can't really pinpoint a character that I can 100% say with certainty that's her. There are so many characters that honestly could fit the role of Madam X, and I just want to make that apparent here and now. Now, of course, I will say who I think is more likely than others, but I do have a pretty lengthy list of my ideas on who it could be. So yeah, and of course, if you have your own theories and ideas or something else entirely that I missed, please comment down below. I would love to read it. I would love to discuss it with you guys when I have the time to do so. So yeah. So my first candidate for the role of Madam X is none other than Anitha. I have played the game for many years. I started playing during the year 2016 to 2017. And actually, that's crazy. I've been playing this for about 9 to 10 years. Man, I feel old. That is crazy. Time truly does fly by, man. But anyways, I've always thought of Anitha to be a very highly candidate, and she's my number one candidate for the role of Madam X. Now, yes, there are many variables to her character that fit, just as much as there are many that don't really fit to being Madam X herself. I understand that completely, so that's why I want to break down my thoughts and feelings on why she could be, but also why she probably couldn't be. Realistically, with Anitha, I'm 50-50. I can see it, and I also don't really see it either, especially with new stuff that has came out during V13 and V13.5's story. Alrighty, so why I think it's Anitha, or it could be Anitha, however you wish to word it. I go back to the idea of her simply being a mother that wants to see her daughter safe, being Maria. You unfortunately see the tragedy of her life, where she, I guess at one point lived in poverty, and eventually got into a very wealthy family and whatnot, but then Indrid came into the picture. We know him as this manipulative monster on the inside, but on the outside he's a very charming man. You see it happen with Narcissa, and there's probably other stuff with him as well, with him manipulating people and yada yada yada. Go back to the maid where he's like, yeah, you'll be safe, just drop the bomb there and we'll bring you on back. And you realistically see how that all unfolds. The maid didn't actually make it, but thankfully Madam X came and saved the day and rewinded time. But that's a whole nother thing. Let's not get into that. The main point is, on the outside he seems like a really sweet guy. On the inside, not really. There's a lot of ulterior motives within that mind of his. Anyways, back to Anitha though. So there came a point where she married Indrid, and unfortunately Indrid drained a lot of the family's wealth, and there came a point where she went to this witch and she was like, hey, the very beginning of my love life was incredible, but now that we got married, I'm losing money. I feel like I'm losing my husband. It's not the same. He's not treating me too well. And I want something that will make him love me again, like the very beginning, like the start of things. And the witch was like, and I think her name was Shada, by the way. If I mispronounced the name, sorry, but we'll just say the witch. She's like, hey, why don't you just leave him? He's not good for you. He's done all these bad things. Why can't you see that he's not a good guy at all? And Anitha responds, if I do that, I go back to being poor. I can't do it. I'm willing to put up with this so I don't go back out there again, like I once was before. And the witch was like, okay, I can make the potion, but I can also do this. Let me make something that will kill him. And of course, Anitha is like, no, 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 I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna kill him. I just want something that will make him love me again. And Shada's like, okay, I can make it happen. Now, of course, if you... She kind of hints more so at the idea if you... What was the phrase? Like, love fades, do us apart. I forgot exactly what that phrase was again. Until death do us apart. I think that's what she says. And she means that in a literal sense, of course. Going back to the whole Tangrove scene, if some may or may not remember that, that's how she died. And we know that the spell finally wore off, but I'm jumping the gun a little bit. You get the potion from, well, she gives the potion to Anitha. She does the whole thing, but then you see the whole scene of the family. No longer does Anitha have the black hair, because originally with the witch scene, she had long black hair, and that's an important key, because again, going to Madame X, the Sakatron scene where she breaks the mask, you see long black hair but red eyes, and of course she kind of covers it with her hand, but the long black hair, it still flows on down. I think that is a key factor that it could be Anitha. Now, to be fair, well, I don't want to get into the negatives too much, but I guess I can a little bit. It still could be literally any person that, you know, may or may not have the effects of the archetype, because again, the whole archetype draining thing, well, you know, let me not get into all of that right now. Let me stay on track as best as I can. Let's not do that right now. Long black hair, but this time red eyes, and Anitha originally did not have red eyes, and I'll get into that in a moment on my thoughts and feelings on that. You get into the whole thing with now Indred using the archetype to make children, because again, he's literally death itself, Yveltal. He cannot, you know, create children with a woman, clearly, because he's death itself. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So an interesting key factor as well is apparently he had Meloetta, because I'm pretty sure he mentioned before, I used Meloetta to do the song. The archetype split into 4, it faded, and she was able to have 4 children. The archetype split into 4. That's why you see Alice, Alan, Irina, and Maria. Now, of course, Gardevoir at that scene gets really pissed off, and she's like, are you kidding me? One day you're going to wake up from this nightmare, but gosh darn it, Indred, what has happened to you? What happened to our cult, the plans of ending the world, and all these kind of stuff, and yada yada? Like, what happened to all of that? She storms off, Irina walks in, and I won't get into the whole Irina thing, let's keep it on Anitha for now. There comes a point, again, I guess technically, yeah, we'll go back to Irina. Her light awakens, goes into battle, Anitha is in distress, and there finally comes a point where Indred sends the 3 children off to the unknown dimension, and he takes care of the memories of Anitha, and she pretty much now only remembers Maria, and for some reason, not the other children. Again, because of Indred, for whatever reason, or whatever spell or ability he did to her. So, ultimately, going back to the very start of this, I think she's ultimately a woman that just wants Maria back, and she's willing to do anything she can to get that, and to stop Vitus, and to get back at him for what he's done. Some other variables that I want to get into again is the mask scene, the red eyes, the black hair. But there's another thing as well that I want to add. The black keyhole in the back of her neck. I believe how that all plays out is simply because of the archetype itself. I believe with Meloetta's song, I think that is kind of like the key to maybe, like, I don't know, like have the archetype drained within that keyhole, so then that she can actually have 4 children. So I think that's why, or that's a explanation on the back of her neck having the keyhole. If you don't remember that scene, there is a book, I believe during what chapter was it? Death of One, Birth of Another, I think is the chapter name, where you go down into the hospital in Hiyoshi City. There's the book where it goes over all those kind of things. So you know what I just realized? My music's not playing. Alright, I'm back. Sorry for the pause there. I guess I had to redo some stuff. I don't feel like redoing the beginning of the video. It should be fine, but the music should actually be playing now. Sorry about that. Anyways, though, yeah, the book is pretty much within Hiyoshi City. You read about it with a woman named Anitha, long black hair, and a key shape hole thing, or like mark on the back of her head. So yeah, if anyone's curious about that, I'm pretty sure it's self-explanatory that it's the archetype that was, I guess, inserted into her. It disintegrated, and that's how she had 4 children. That's why that mark is there. Now, again, could it be Anitha because of those variables? Yes and no. But again, let's stick to the idea that it is Anitha. Now, a big question that a lot of people may have is why and how. What made her so evil to just do these kind of things? Because Anitha seemed like a very just sweet and caring mother. What happened to her that may have changed her? Well, there's a few variables that I have in mind. It could simply be the fact that it's a mother that is very just angry, has lost her family and lost everything, and just got to a point that it's like, enough is enough. I'm gonna do what I can and what I must to stop Indred and to stop all these other variables that are in my way to have my family back. Voice crack there, by the way. I want Arena back, I want Alice back, I want Alan back, I want Maria back. I want them back in my life. It could simply be a fact very similar to Indred, with the whole Anju/Angie scene, where he corrupted her and now she's this woman that wants to turn the world into ice for the love of Arceus. So it could be a thing like that. Now, of course, some may beg the question, hey, she died to the Tangrowth. What are you on about? She's dead. Her soul resides within the Soul Stone. How could she have a physical form in this world? Good point. Good counter argument. And you're right. Because of those variables, again, as I said before, it may not actually be Anitha. But some ideas that I have in mind that it could play out in that way is, let's see here. I'm trying to think. Alright, I'm back. Sorry for the pause there. My computer was making a few sounds, I believe it was, so I had to check on it real quick. Anyways, enough of me getting distracted there. Well, I'll get distracted again. I'm hoping to build a PC at some point this year. I, again, just been busy, but regardless, we're rocking out with this guy for now. Anyways, so, right, the soul idea and the body. Okay, so here's my idea. It could be simply a thing that, whatchamacallit, it's really difficult. I go back to V for an example. What if it's a thing where Anitha comes from a different time entirely, and maybe that time was Kyugurin or a whole nother world in of itself, and she came to this one as like, okay, mine failed, yada yada yada, I need to stop this to save the world, save my children, all these kind of variables. What if it's a thing similar to Ren? Ren got taken over by spirit within the Den of Souls. What if somehow the soul of Anitha took over a body or a robot and was like, alright, I'm back now. Now, again, some may be like, well, the Soul Stone, right, but keep in mind, there are scenes where she ups and appears in Kyugurin City. You can see her come back at some point, but there's other scenes where you try to call upon her and she doesn't pop up. So I think potentially that could be a thing as well that I want to add into the mix of things. Now, another thing and another topic that I want to get into is the suit itself. I believe there are many different ideas with that suit. Go back to the quest, the Litwick quest, if I'm not mistaken, within Emma's cave. You go through the emotions of the Zenkaron being like, I just want to see my mother's grave one final time before I'm up and deleted up into like oblivion. And you go through all that, you activate the panels, you see the suit being made, and he's like, I'm so sorry, Madam X, I didn't realize I deleted this file, yada yada yada. And then he's like, oh wait, it's not actually her. It's missing that evil intent, that evil aura, whatever you want to call it. Somehow the cave, the gemstones, has some sort of effect with the suit. Go back to when the mask gets cracked and she says the lines, if it wasn't for this confounded suit, things would be different. So that suit in my mind is a life support in some way, shape, and form. Could it be to stop overlapping? Could it be to stop the light plague itself? Could it be to stop her from just outright dying because maybe she has Genesis syndrome? I don't know. There's many different ideas that run in my mind, but ultimately I feel that that suit keeps her alive, and it has to, in some way, shape, and form. I don't know what it is entirely, but I feel like those variables that I mentioned before could very well be possible. Could it be a thing that you know, Anitha got sacrificed, and because of the sacrifice, something happened, the soul got recycled, and now we have Madam X. I don't know. There's many ideas that I can get into and say with Anitha, and I feel like there's a few things that I might be missing as well. But ultimately, I think the idea of her just being a mother that has unfortunately fell into the evil side of things, has unfortunately decided, I'm willing to make this world go upside down for family. I want my children back. I want Indra to finally pay for what he's done to myself and this world, and that's that. Now, again, there's many variables that don't really make sense to me. Her personality simply doesn't fit the role of Madam X, but again, it could be some sort of way that she just up and became evil. Indrid could have a hand of it because of the whole Andrew thing, like I mentioned before. The Soul Stone thing, kind of, but also kind of doesn't make sense because she clearly did die to the Tangrowth. There could be a wacky idea that for whatever reason it worked out that her soul now resides within Madam X. It could be a reincarnation thing that she's back, but it also on the flip side again could also just not really be that at all. So yeah, ultimately, to conclude my ideas on all of that, oh right, I guess there's one more thing that doesn't make any sense to me in particular. The abandoned shack in Kyugurin. You see that underground area where you go down in the elevator. You see like Vivian's like robotic doll like standing, a few other robots on a table. Nimra and Anju's body has like a robotic thing, like torn apart and whatnot. What does Anitha have to do with all of that? That is kind of an interesting question, because it's like, well, what does that have to do with anything? Why does Anitha have some sort of resentment towards the protectors of Avium? That's also another thing that plays in my mind, that it's like, I don't know, maybe it may not actually be her. But I will say, I will add this idea that could fit the idea. What if, and I'm just saying what if, there came a point that Anitha resided within Black Steeple when Nimra originally had the castle. Now, yes, that is a huge stress. I get it. And I know it is. Just stay with me here. There is that book that was checked out by Anitha that was a domestic abuse book. It could be simply a thing that she may have, I don't know, worked around Black Steeple in some way, shape, and form, was mistreated, I don't know, maybe by Indrid, maybe somebody else entirely, but I do remember that book, and there could be some resentment with her towards them, being like, this kind of stuff is going down and none of you guys help me. Is that a stretch? Absolutely. Do I think that's what that is? No, I don't. But would it surprise me? Yes and no. Yes and no. But I do want to point out that there is that book there, and it makes me wonder, at what point was Anitha within Black Steeple? Because that was a long time ago. And Kyugurin, that is here and now, again, like the Great Pokemon War to Kyugurin, that's so many years ago. But I feel like there might be something with the timeline that I'm not really remembering correctly. Maybe, maybe not, I'm not entirely certain, but there is that book there, and I'm almost certain that it was Anitha that checked it out. I'm pretty sure I remember that correctly, so yeah. I think with that, is there anything else that I want to add with the idea? I don't think so. Ultimately, to conclude it, I'm 50-50 with Anitha. I think there is the idea that she just could simply be a mother that is on a mission to make things right for her family, and in some way, shape, and form, she's been corrupted and is willing to do whatever it takes to stop this from happening. Oh right, there is one more thing that may not add to that idea, and more so be a negative towards that idea, where Madam X in the Doom timeline, where she was talking about her mother, because Malia was asking, well, what was your mother like? Madam X was like, she was a caring and loving woman that would do anything for me. And, you know, she died, you know, doing what, or like protecting her or something like that. So, yeah. That also could indicate more so one of the children. But at the same time, though, it's not like Anitha died in a way to protect her children. She more so died by an accident with the Tangrowth and the officer. So I don't know, but I thought I would at least add that into the equation as well. So we'll kind of leave it at that for Anitha, and again, she's my number one candidate. There are many things that I feel that fit the role, but also do not fit the role. There are many other things that I can get into and talk about with my idea on all of that. I want to make sure that I give enough time for each and every character, so we'll move on to the next one here and now. So the next candidate is none other than Maria/Marionette, and I think that is definitely one of the more likely candidates for being the role of Madam X. There is the if I could speak correctly, I don't know what I said there. On the flip side of things, there is that feeling in my mind that I'm like, that's just too obvious. And I feel like it's something else entirely. But compared to other characters that I'll get into later on, she's definitely one of the more highly likely in my mind. There are so many variables with Madame X being Maria / Marionette, and we'll get into that now, starting with the prologue. You go and you play as Marionette. You see your mother making breakfast, you see your father doing some work, she interacts with different things around the house, and you finally get to the unfortunate conclusion that realistically it's Indrid playing mind games on Maria. She sees this green hue and then a breaking sound effect happens. She walks downstairs. Sorry for the pause there, I had to get some water. But anyways, right. She walks downstairs, she sees her mother get sacrificed, and then she's like, Father, I hate you, I hate you. Why are you doing this? Like, say something to me. Oh, right. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Before she walks down the stairs, Madame X appears before her, and she says something. What was that again? What was the lines again? How many times are you gonna make her suffer? It was some sort of line like that. And Maria's like, who are you talking about? And Madame X is like, I'm not talking to you, or not talking about you. And she's like, oh, well, I'm gonna go find my mom and dad. And Madame X is like, they're downstairs. Maria wanders off, and Madame X is like, Maria, whatever is about to happen, don't you dare lose hope, and don't you forget about what's about to happen. You understand? And Maria's like, I understand. And Madame X is like, good. Go to them now. And then you finally go down the stairs. And that line there is something that's very interesting, because it makes me wonder, who is Madame X referring to? Is it more so towards Indrid, to Anitha, all of them combined? But it is interesting where she's like, I'm not talking about you, or to you, something of the sort. I don't remember the exact line, but it's something of the sort. I'm gonna safely guess that it's more so referring to Indrid doing these mind games and yada yada yada. Anyway, she goes down the stairs, mother gets sacrificed unfortunately, and she goes through the whole spiel of like, I hate you, like why are you doing this, yada yada. And then she finally wakes back up in the underground sanctuary. Now you might be wondering, where does the prologue fit into all of this? I believe it fits in with the battle with us and Gardevoir, and where Nimra and the other ladies of Avium, the protectors of Avium, go in to battle him. So I think that's what's going on. Now, keep in mind, some may be misremembering, like, well, why is she there? Keep in mind, the Marble Mansion, if you go with Anitha and not save the officer, you see that Maria is trapped in this crystal-like object, and clearly Indrid still has her for some sort of reason. What that reason is entirely, it could be a multitude of things. It could be because he just wants to have fun and mess with her and torture her and do all these things to her. It could be because of the golden light and he doesn't want that out of his sight. There's a numerous amount of things, but we'll just keep it simple and leave it at that. But anyways, she's there. He's clearly still in custody of her, and that's why she's within the underground sanctuary. So you go with her, going through the different maids, talking to them, and then she ends up with the scene where he's at the altar, the maids are surrounding it, and they're all like, it's your turn, Maria. One final, sacrifice and we're good, and yada yada yada. And I believe that sacrifice is potentially what ignited and started Storm 9 itself. And sorry for the hitting the mic there. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. But anyways, that's what I believe. But that at the end of the prologue, she's like, somebody please save me, please, please. And then it fades to black, and then you hear a slashing sound. Now, I've always had the idea of two people, Madame X or Nimra. I think Nimra is the more likely one that interrupted interrupted the spell. What I think went down realistically. Now, I will say this: if I'm somewhat, I don't have to be 100% correct on this, but if I'm somewhat close to being right, I would be ecstatic. Because I've always had this idea for so many years. What I think went down was Nimra went into battle with Indred, interrupted the spell. The two girls split to Marionette and Malia. Because again, similar to Alita, her thing got interrupted when Vivian was going to sacrifice herself to stop Storm 9. Gardevoir interrupted it, but because of the sacrifice, it lessened the blow, but not entirely. And I think very similar to that, that's kind of what's going on here. The two girls split, it got interrupted, which entails that the archetype split from 1/4 to 1/8, pretty much, because Maria and Malia both have a fraction of it. And I think that goes into play with the whole Genesis syndrome issue, but I will get into that at a later point. The two girls split. I think at that point with the Time Diamond, Madame X swoops in and is like, hey, I don't like you two, but I want her. Alright, goodbye. And she's gone with the win. And that is why Malia is within Team Zen's HQ. Because remember at the... what was it again? I think it is said by Jenner at the beginning of the game. If it's not that, there was a point within the game where it was mentioned that Malia was originally within Team Zen HQ. She was originally in custody of Madame X, and they watched over her. But she was still too young for them to do what they had to do with her. So she was given custody to Jenner, and Jenner was to grow her up to be a 10-year-old, I believe it was. And I don't know if it said 10 years old. I think there was something that said 10 years old. If I'm wrong, then no, I'm wrong. They gave her to Jenner at 10 years old, but now since she's older now, she was right. I'm mixing it up, yeah. Now that she's older now, lived with Jenner for a while, she's now more suitable to do her thing with, Madame X and yada yada with the Golden Light. However that plays out, I don't know exactly, but pretty much she's old enough to, do her thing and yada yada, and that's why Team Zen wants her back, and of course that starts the whole Goldenwood scene and so on with the story. Anyways though, they originally had her, and I've always wondered in my mind, how? I think because of the sacrifice. I think the two girls split, Madame X swooped in and was like, alright, I'm here now. I know how this all plays out. I need her. If I'm to win this game from start to finish with what Viraya has started and what Indred has started, this is how it has to play out. Maria is meant to stay here. I'm not going to mess with that. Her though, I need her. I'm out of here. I have what I want, and the story can now play out from here on out, since the Interceptor now has, came into play with the whole SS Oceania thing. Now, what's also an interesting thing is Madame X isn't really aware of the Interceptor being along until Black Steeple during the Doom timeline. But for some reason, the Amanda robot, and it seems like Clear and Kieran probably had some motives as well, knowing about the whole Interceptor thing. And I think, okay, that's jumping the gun to a whole different thing in of itself. Let me finish this thought, just added there. I think with them losing the Crescent was big brain. They wanted to do that, so she brought back, Alon to jumpstart the whole Interceptor thing, and so on. Alright, I'm back again. Sorry for the pause there, and sorry for that sound there. It probably was pretty loud. But anyways, though, I'm trying to remember where I was going, because, let me just go off with this again. Let's talk about Clear, Kieran losing the Crescent. Right, so I think that jump-started the whole Interceptor thing and yada yada. And that is something that's always confused me with Madame X. Because it's like, there's many things that she knows that really is like unknown to us, but there's also many variables that she clearly doesn't know. Because go back to the Doom timeline where she's like, why are you no, sorry, not the Doom timeline, Q-Gurren's, before the bomb, well, it did went off, but she rewinded time and time. She was like, why are you so important? Like, you realize, like, I have had to save you countless times. But then within the Doom timeline, she's like, I get it now, you're the Interceptor. Now I see why I have to continue doing what I have to do. I get it now. It's not like I can up and get rid of you, because you are needed in this equation, in this game. So, yeah, but anyways, getting back on track with the whole Maria/Marionette thing. I'm trying to remember where I left off at, honestly. Oh, what was it again? Alrighty, I think I kind of remember where I was going. So let's steer away from clearing Kieran for now. Needing, like, Malia and that light and whatnot. So there came a point within Goldenwood, she tried to take, you know, Malia back, but then you saw the eye, the green hue, and things like shook and yada yada yada. Team Zen was up and there, and I think potentially a big thing with that is I think Team Zen successfully got Malia. I think they did, and unfortunately with Varia, predetermined timeline, it didn't work out. They had to leave her alone and get her another time. And that's something that is a big part of this game, is why hasn't Madam X taken Malia at any given point within the game, especially early game? Now, yes, she's not immortal. She's not this person that, you know, cannot be defeated. She can, I believe she can be defeated. Now, to be fair, the Puppet Master says otherwise, where he was like, hey, she can't be beat. Guys, I have to do this. And of course, at the end, the Puppet Master realizes the Interceptor's fate is wonderful. Maybe you can win. It was some sort of line after we, you know, defeat them. So, yeah. Now, go back to even the Doom timeline where Melanie got that light, and you see the scene where Madam X's, you know, mask is on the side of the floor. There are scenes that prove and show that she can lose, she can be beaten, but she is easily one of the most strongest characters within the entire game. Talking about one that went toe-to-toe with the champion of the region, and has probably done so many other wacky stuff, so do keep that in mind as well. So, going back to the main question, why not? Why not? I go back to the whole system thing, that if you step out of line, if you do something wrong within this game here, this version here, bad things happen. It doesn't work out like that. It has to stay predetermined on the timeline that it's meant to be stayed upon. It cannot deviate from that. And even in the later games, you see how Madam X admits, we need to work together at the Doom timeline within Black Steeple, or when she stopped the bomb from happening. Why do I have to keep helping you guys? For some reason, I can't just do what I want. I have to do this, because if I don't, it doesn't work out for me, and I need it to be a thing that I win in the end. So there are occasions that she is steering the ship. She is leading us in the right direction, and she knows that one day when we get to that final conclusion, that final battle, it's going to be decided who wins. And I don't plan to lose. And same thing with Malia and our crew. We don't plan to lose either. So we're putting everything we can into winning and to create a miracle. And another thing that is a little bit fun, I remember when they took this out of the game, where the fortune teller used to be a normal NPC and not Peony, I think is the new one's name. And she brings up a scene where there's 3 people on top of a castle, and it's meant to decide, you know, whether the world is saved or not, and yada yada yada. I think that battle is going to happen potentially at Black Steeple or underneath Black Steeple. Remember, where Malia played as Emma, and she found this restricted area that no one can go into besides Madame X herself, and it was like this underground like castle thing, if I'm not mistaken. I think that is going to be, I don't know if that's something we'll see in V14, but it is something that I want to bring up and remind people as well, because I feel like a lot of people forget about those kind of details within the game, so I think it is important to bring it up. But anyways, though, back on track though with Maria being Madame X, I think potentially it is a situation that ultimately her light is running out. She is dying. That's why you see her with long black hair. And she needs that golden light from Malia to continue on and to ultimately be able to win. There's something more important about Malia's light, I guess, compared to Aaron, Alice, and Alan, because in my mind, there is, like, I know it's said before from Alexandra and Damien that it's like, well, Madame X probably doesn't know about Aaron, Alice, and Alan. I have a hard time believing that. I think she is aware of them, but she's more so targeting Malia. Why? Again, go off of the two girls splitting idea. Because of the sacrifice at the altar because of Indred. I think she needs that one more specifically and not the other ones. So yeah, I think that's what that is. And even go back to a few scenes where Malia's like, I know people say that I'm Maria, but in my body and soul and mind, I'm not her. But again, yes and no, she's right, she's Malia, she's not Maria, she's not Marionette, she's right. Similar to Alita being like, I'm not Talia, I'm not Vivian, I'm me. I get that. But again, I think a sacrifice went down, and that's how it played out. Go back to different scenes within the game. The Anju scene, where she's like, for my love for Arceus, I'm gonna sacrifice Malia, goodbye, and Venom's like, no, don't do that, yada yada, and we're like, oh man, she about to do it. And then a familiar feeling happens, and Andrew's like, why is this familiar? What is going on? And you see the different versions of Malia, from young to old to, I think, like M2's there. I think the Obelisk version is there, and like so many different versions, like up and appear there pretty much. And the sacrifice doesn't work out. And then she has the backwards hex and all this kind of stuff. And I think that relates to her potentially being, you know, Maria / Marionette. It's a familiar feeling. Of course it is, because you've experienced it once before. Go back to, I feel like there's another scene that I'm forgetting. Right, there's a very new scene within the game. Aaron and Malia at the Anthium. You get the scene where there's this woman that looks very similar to Malia, but it's not actually her. And I believe that is Marionette. And I think the Puppet Master is showing, hey, if things played out differently, this is who you're meant to be. Because even Aaron, if I'm not mistaken, recognized the girl as well. So there's different hints and scenes within the game that show and prove that. But of course, she's right. Malia is Malia. She's not Maria. She's not Marionette. But I ultimately believe it's a sacrifice thing. And ultimately, Maria is running out of time. That suit is keeping her from dying. And she needs Malia's golden light to make things happen. Go back to even that scene with the flashback where Madame X is like, find out the truth then. Because going even further than that, go back to Black Steeple, the Doom timeline, where Madame X is like, you just did something I did not want to see happening. You awakened that golden light. Now for some people, they might think, oh, she's making a miracle, she's reviving the world, that's why Madame X hates it, she wants oblivion. I'm gonna differentiate from that road. No, it could be that. It could very well be that. Yeah, sure. I think she's upset more so the idea that now that it's awakened, Madam X is aware that Malia is dying. And now that it's activated, it's too late. That's why you see the scene with her being like, alright, what's done is done. Find out the truth about yourself, and that's that. I think Madam X potentially wanted that golden light, but to not extract it from her when it's activated. But now that it is, she now has Genesis syndrome, and I don't think at all Madam X wanted that to happen at all. But the reality of it is, that's just how it played out. I think that is why Madam X said those lines. Not because she saved the world from the Doom timeline from Melanie, but now it's a whole nother ball game that she has to deal with. She now has Genesis syndrome. My time is running out because that archetype within her, it's draining her. And once that goes away and she dies, oh crap. Now, those are my thoughts and feelings on Maria. There's much more that I can probably get into and say, but I think I'll leave it at that. She's definitely one of the more likely candidates. Now, to why it may not necessarily be her, honestly, there's not a lot I can really say. I just have a gut feeling that it just may be too obvious. But again, there's just so many variables that fit with the idea, you know? So, I think we'll leave it at that for the whole marionette / Maria idea. Alrighty, I'm back. Sorry for the pause there. I don't think I brought it up towards the start of the video, apologies for that, but I will say it here now. This video will be recorded in sessions because I clearly cannot record a 2-hour plus video in one sitting like I used to, because again, busy with work, life, etc., so I'll leave it at that. The next candidate that I believe could fit the role for Madam X's identity is none other than Malia, or an alternate Malia. Now, right off the bat, I'm just gonna say it here now. I don't think that's what this is. I don't think Madam X is an alternate Malia. If it turns out to be that, would it be surprising? No, because there are a lot of things that connect and can fit into the idea of her being Madam X. But it's just one of those things that I have this gut feeling that that's just not what this is. I really just don't think it is that. But if it turns out to be that, again, it's not really surprising. Anyways, my thoughts and feelings on how that could be. So, I go back to the very end of Karma Files, where Malia was, punching and kicking the AI eyeball tablet thing, whatever you want to call it, voice crack there, sorry. And she went on ahead and was like, you'll get what you deserve. Karma's a blank. As some know, I don't curse or anything like that, so you can fill in the blanks there. And then the system was like, karma. You know what? Let's do something different. Because this is just so much fun. If it doesn't work out, then okay. Whatever. I can continue this game over and over and over and over and over, as I've done numerous times, with different versions, different worlds, different timelines, different dimensions, whatever you want to call it. She has gone through multitudes of games. Go back to V, they are a great example when they brought up that, how they came from a different timeline and they have to get that nano drive to save their world. So that implies that there are multiple versions going on. There are different worlds happening with different characters, different interceptors, potentially different villains. Maybe it is the same villain, the same, you know, like Team Zen. It could still be Indrid. It could be something else entirely in that world that V comes from. I don't know, but regardless, that quest there, Missing Children, I think shows that there are different timelines, different versions, yada yada, whatever you want to call it, are going on because of Variety, because of the core, the system, whatever you want to call it, that she and, you know, her followers created. Now, to be fair, it seems most likely she has hidden stuff from the others that were working on it, especially Adrest, but I think even she kept things from pretty much a lot of people that has surprised many, especially, you know, Adrest for an example, because whatchamacallit, he brought it up before he got up and deleted. He was like, guys, that's not possible. Varaya is dead. She's not meant to be alive. She was meant to be a sacrificial lamb to get this all going. And then the system was like, hey, you kind of found out too much. Beep, you're gone. Bye-bye. And then, of course, before he got deleted, he gave us what we needed to find out the secrets of this world. Now, sorry to deviate from the whole Malia thing. My apologies for that. Anyways, going back to the Paradox Rift though, when you go up the elevator, she and the Elan from that world walk up to it and she's like, that's a Paradox Rift. I don't know why I know that. I just know that it's a Paradox Rift. And very similar to the Time Gate, it pretty much allows me to go to a different world and yada yada yada. I forgot exactly the line that was said there, but I'm pretty sure it's something similar to that extent. And of course, the Elan from that world was like, oh great, so we can actually create a miracle. We can make, you know, hope happen. We don't have to live in this desolate land anymore of just endless nothing. We can create a miracle. We could do this. But of course the protag's like, wait a minute. I can't go. Because if I go, it can cause issues with the interceptor from that timeline. So I think it's you that's gotta go and I have to stay behind. I don't want to do this. I don't like it. But I could mess up some stuff really, really badly if I go with you. And Malia is like, I don't like this, but okay, I'll come back for you. And our protag from that timeline was like, yeah, you better, or else I'll come get you, or something of the sort. I think he said something like that. And then Malia walks into the Paradox Rift. What I think could potentially be a thing is we have this version here, this world, this game, whatever you want to call it. Malia has entered the game, and a big problem is overlapping. As Madam X has said before, two of the same persons cannot coexist within this world. Go back to the Narcissus side quest where her younger and older self was about to get deleted by the system because two of the same people were within the same world. Despite the age difference, it's still the same person. And Dufox created that scenario to make that all happen, and it worked out in the end for everybody. So, yeah, but clearly overlapping is a serious thing that it prohibits that from happening. Now, some may be wondering, okay, how? How are there two Malias coexisting within this world? The suit. I think I brought it up earlier within the video that there are a multitude of ideas that I think is helping Madam X with that suit. Whether it's a life support kind of thing, a thing that is stopping overlapping from happening, maybe it's something with the light plague. I don't know. There are a multitude of reasons on why she needs that suit, and it could be a combination of all three. I don't know. But clearly, she brought it up on top of the pyramid when the mask broke. She said if it wasn't for this confounded suit, things would be different. So, in my mind, it could simply be a thing that the reason why Madam X knows the lines, "Don't you dare lose hope. Don't you forget what is about to happen to you, Maria," and why she knows certain things within this world is because the Malia from that time has experienced all these things. She's aware of this and that, and it explains why, you know, there's a multitude of reasons on why Madam X cannot take Malia at that given point, because she knows that's not how it's meant to play out. We're supposed to play it from start to finish. Varia's made this predetermined timeline that if I step out of line, it's going to cause issues, and I need to wait for the final moment. And when we finally reach the crescendo, however you want to call it, the conclusion, the whatever, once we get to that point, the battle that is destined between Team Zen and our group that is trying to make a miracle, when we finally clash, when we finally go toe to toe, it decides everything. Absolutely everything. And as our group has said before, we don't plan to lose. Team Zen has said it before. I don't plan on losing either, but there can only be one victor. Who is it going to be? And we don't know until then, of course. But with Madam X, though, being an alternate Malia, there's a lot of variables that I've mentioned before, make a lot of sense, and honestly connect very, very well. I just overall have this gut feeling that it's not an alternate Malia. I feel that it's a little bit too obvious, and I think there's something else entirely at play. What that can be, again, literally almost any character could honestly fit the role. It just simply could, you know, like, I don't know, like, I don't think it's this character at all. It would be surprising to me if it is, but I'll throw Amber in the mix, because why not? Like, I don't know, it could be a Amber from a different timeline, and for some reason she got warped into this world and has to wear this suit, and I don't know, maybe she got mad that, you know, she got up and deleted by the Interceptor at the end of the Renegade route, and she's on this tirade to get revenge on us, and yada yada yada. You can make up so many different things, and honestly, with how Jane has made this game, I can see it. I can see it with a multitude of characters. Now, of course, some may be more likely than others. That I think is obvious, and I know I've said that before, but there's just so many people within this game that you can try making up whatever you want to make up. Using the data, using what is seen within the game to connect the dots on who she could be, could honestly fit, you know? The sky's the limit with theories and speculations and just overall ideas. Anyways, though, with Malia, though, I think we'll bring that to a close. And like I brought it before as well, I could get more into a lot of this, and I'm sure there's probably some things that I'm forgetting to mention. I just don't want to take too long with this video with each character, so I think we'll move along. I think I've brought up some decent reasons to that. Could I add more? Again, yes, but I think we'll leave it at that. So the next character on our list is honestly kind of a boring answer, I'll be honest with you. and I don't have a lot to really say about this idea, and that's simply an unknown character, or potentially a Garufin from Old Earth, or potentially somebody else from Old Earth, but may have lived in a different territory and knew about what Varia was doing and doesn't really like what's going on with the core project and has somewhat gotten into this world here and knows about all sorts of different things about the game, but also doesn't really know a lot of things as well. But ultimately, their goal is to stop this game from endlessly happening, to put it to a full stop and be like, we're done with this. We are done. But again, back to the unknown character, that again, it could just simply be a character that we've never seen before, have no clue who it is, and that's that. And even for like an unknown character, I know this is kind of a wild idea. I mean, go down the, because like, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Alexandra like an ancestor of Nimra? I think there's something mentioned about that. If I'm wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong. And I might be misremembering that, but I thought that she was an ancestor of Nimra. What if at some point Nimra had a child? And now, I don't think it'd be a child with Vitus by any means, because again, he's not really able to give, you know, life to somebody to, you know, have children and whatnot, because he's death itself. But whatchamacallit, at some point, since she clearly can create life, what if she just, I don't know, created a friend, a child, another servant similar to Canon? I don't really know. And that person grew up and something happened to them and they're that unknown character. I don't know. It could be I don't know, just some random thing that Varia was like, alright, I'm gonna pop up this random character, throw him into this world because I feel like it, and yeah, you're Madam X. Have fun. Go around with your sword and slash around people. Bye-bye. I don't know. But I think it is definitely worth a mention that it could just simply be a character that's just unknown. And we won't know until the day arrives that her identity is revealed. Now, that's another big thing too, that I think about a lot. I don't know if they would ever reveal it during V14 story. I have a 50-50 feeling that it will be revealed in V14. But if it's not, I mean, it's gotta be like V15, right? Like, how long are you gonna hold on to that? But that's the big thing that's... It's a bittersweet thing, and I feel like when that day arrives, I feel like I'm gonna have the same feelings that I did during Reborn. That you go through the final chapter of episode 19, and you go to the climactic resolution, learning about, you know, Lynn and all these kind of variables, and then that's it. Yeah, of course there is the not the prologue, sorry, the post game. But I mean, when you finish the main game from start to finish and just playing it for so many years, it's like, man, I can't redo that again without knowing now. There's so much, like, it's almost like watching a really good movie or like a really good show, and you're like, man, I wish that I could just like erase my mind for a moment and replay it all over again without knowing all these things. Because again, once it's said and done, once it's known, it's known. There's no putting it back in, you know, the bottle. And I feel like it's going to be a very bittersweet moment that it's like, man, that's who she is. And then it's just that wave just like comes over you. Like, I don't know how to describe that feeling, but it's like, again, the only words that I have is it's just bittersweet. It's going to be a very bittersweet moment, at least for me. I don't know how other people will react to that and how they'll feel, because everyone has different feelings on different situations and subjects and yada yada yada, but we're not here to get into all of that. Anyways though, yeah, we'll conclude it with an unknown character slash maybe a Garufin or somebody from Old Earth's time that somehow made it into here. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Alright, I'm back. Sorry for the pause there. I had to pause and do something real quick. But anyways, oh, right. Just a random thing before we get to the next candidate. I don't know if it really picked up that one like loud sound from like the last episode. I was so dumb. I thought it was my computer because I think I paused multiple times and I was like, why is it making such a loud like sound? Because like I got like concerned. It was just like the Roomba out in the other room going off. So I was like, okay, thank goodness it's not the computer. So I thought I would say that real quick. The laptop's fine, and yeah, it was just that. It honestly like worried me yesterday when I was recording this, but alright, anyways, moving along. Next character, Nova. Now, I don't think it's Nova. I'm just gonna say that right off the bat. I just don't think it's her. But again, would it surprise me? No, because again, she's clearly on the list for a reason. So, some of you may or may not know who Nova is, and if you don't, that's fine because her name is barely brought up in the game itself. Nova is the child of Talia. Now yes, some are already thinking, hey, dum-dum, she's dead, don't you remember? Yes, you're right, but how many times has this game shown that a character was quote-unquote dead, but they're not actually dead? I'll even use Deegan as an example. Many people thought he was gone, but clearly he's still out there, and we don't know where he's at. I'm just saying, it's not impossible. It's just what I'm going at here. Anyways though, the daughter of Talia, Nova. So, there is not a lot I can really connect with her being Madam X because she literally died as a, I would say maybe like a toddler. I don't know her exact age when she died, but I'm gonna guess a toddler from, I guess, some scenes that I've seen within Where Love Lies, and I haven't played that game in years, so my memory of that is very vague. But anyways, I think there was a thing where the house was getting burned down. There was the whole thing with the man in the cloak, which I believe the man in the cloak was Vitus, because again, a person that can continue reincarnating and cheating death is something that Vitus is like, hey, no, I don't like that, I don't want that, that's going. Go back when you battle the, not the Overseer, what is it called? The admin, the Regirock. There's a book in that room once you go through the whole dialogue with the admin, and it shows like a bunch of names of previous Earth users, and a lot of them passed away from an individual with I think like 5 letters, and I believe that's none other than Vitus that hunted them down. So yeah, I think what potentially could be a thing is, let's say that the daughter somehow didn't actually die. Now how that could be, I don't know. Maybe at some point Spacia and Tempa, by Varaya's wish herself, was like, hey, save this baby. Go back to the Anju scene where she's dropping off Kreese as a baby in front of her mom and dad during the Anju side quest, and she's like, this is my baby and he's gonna stay with you guys. I made sure that once this whole thing is over with, it'll unfreeze, and I'm counting on you to take care of him while I'm away, because I don't know if I'll actually be able to return or not because of the whole Vitus battle. We all know how that kind of went, unfortunately, for her. But anyways, you see Spacia and Tempa interfere, and they move Kreese as an infant to the Galar region, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm just saying maybe, just maybe, they interfered and put her on a different path, and potentially at some point grew up and, I don't know, learned some stuff with, I don't know, I don't see, that's the thing, because it's like, it's not like, I don't know if Nova would really have like the earth sense like Talia would, because like, I mean, I guess let's just say 50-50. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'll say maybe, and it also could just be a thing that she's like, I just want to get back at Indrid for what she did to my mom, and with her, let's say she may have the earth sense because of the Black Steeple scene where Madame X was like, you know, like, I knew like our connection, it was faint, but I felt it. What if it's not a thing where like Madame X could be like an alternate version or the mother of Malia, and it's like, I got this feeling, but it also could be like the earth sense from Nova, that it's like, it was faint, but I knew you didn't leave. And this changes things, because if I get that light, then I can do what I need to do to get back at Indrid. There are holes. I mean, to be fair, those holes with anything that I say are like what anyone may also say about yada yada, but that's all I can really bring up about Nova. I ultimately don't think it is Nova. Would it be surprising? Yes and no. I lean more towards no, because I can see the game doing something wacky like that, so yeah. I think I'll leave it at that with Nova. There's not a lot more that I could really say about her. So yeah, and plus, like, another thing too that contradicts that is, why would Nova work with Clear and Kieran when Clear definitely had a big involvement with what went down with, you know, Talia and Kata? So yeah, but I guess to be fair, it could be a thing that she's like, yeah, it's just business, because like, even like Claire says it, like, it's just business. It's not like we are Team Zen, like admins, or work for Team Zen. It's just a business thing. They do stuff for me, I do stuff for them, yada yada. So yeah, and it could be a thing, because like, the thing is, like, I've always had this idea that I do believe that Clear and Kieran are, I don't know if I want to say like double agents, but that's the only phrase that comes to my mind as of now. That eventually I think they will try to turn on Madame X. Now whether they succeed or don't, that I don't know. But I can see it being a thing that Madame X is like, I'm not really friends with these guys, but clearly they have value, so I want to use that, and they're going to use me for stuff, and I'm fine with this relationship. But at some point it's gonna come to an end, and yeah, or maybe not. I could be wrong on that too, honestly. But I'll leave it at that for the whole Nova idea. I don't think it's Nova, but I think she is worth a mention, and there are some things that connect that I can see it, if that makes sense. Next up is another very popular idea, similar to an alternate Malia and Maria as well. At least I would strongly think most people think it could be this character. And that's none other than Aaron / an alternate Aaron. Same thing with Malia. I'm gonna say the same thing about Aaron. I don't think it's Aaron. I just don't. Again, I know I could be a broken record. Could it be Aaron? Absolutely. There are so many different things that connect. And I would even say potentially more than Malia, honestly, with a lot of V13 story with her going for the Pearl component. There are a lot of similarities with those scenes, personality wise, and the words that they say, and the mannerisms, whatever you want to call it, there's a lot of things that sync up with all of that. But very similar to Malia, I feel the same thing, that it seems so good, it seems so right, that I don't think it's right. And I could be second guessing myself, maybe so, but I guess like it's not like I'm, how do I want to word it, because like it's like she is a candidate in my list that I think could fit the role, but it's just that I think there's just way more likely candidates than Eren, if that makes sense. Well, that's really tricky. Eren is definitely up there. She's not my number one pick, clearly, because I brought it up towards the start being Anatho. But again, like I don't know, I just have this gut feeling. I don't think it's her. I think there's something else at play, but regardless, if it turns out to be that, would not be surprising at all. Enough of me being repetitive. So with Eren, I go back to, oh man, there's so many different things, so many things that I can think of. All right, I'm back. Sorry for the pause there. I had to go do something. But anyways, right, there's so many things that I can get into. Let's go with let's go with like the personality stuff. So, you know that Madam X admitted it during the Doom timeline, where she cut Valerie free, and she was like, I don't like seeing people be, you know, trapped and whatnot. You see the same thing with Eren, where she was trapped within the unknown dimension. She escaped, and she has said it numerous times, I cannot be trapped. Go back to the scene with Flora, and Nanai in the test tube thing, whatever you want to call it, or the decompressor, I think it is. And we had like those like different forms where we were like this mob gangster looking guy. Florin was like an angel. Flora was kind of like a soldier or like a general kind of like outfit. I forgot what exactly her outfit was, but it was something like that. But then Eren was, you know, a demon with horns and, you know, like a devil tail and whatnot. So yeah, anyways though, within that segment of the game, she brought up like, I'm not trapped, I know how to get on out of here. And I know there's other scenes as well where she said very similar things. I think more so to like Alice, like I can't be trapped, yada yada yada, and so on. At least I think there's a scene with her and Alice that she brought that up before. I don't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure she's said it multiple times throughout the game at some given point. Anyways though, the two of them definitely connect on that level, that they don't like the idea of being trapped or seeing others trapped. I go back to the personality wise with the temper. Madam X, yeah, she can get mad very easily. Go back to Eren. It does not take much at all for her to get mad, not at all. Go back at the Alita scene where we have to free her from the curse, and Alita's like, I don't want to go, I don't want to, like, this is my family, yada yada. And Eren gets like pushed to a wall, and you see her face go like bright red, and she's pretty mad. And I think something similar happened with well, I don't need to go into like every like little scene. There's multiple scenes where you see her face get like red and whatnot. So in that, you know, aspect, they both can get mad pretty quickly. It doesn't take much to push their buttons. I guess besides like some of that, let's get into like some of the more story stuff that's been going on. So V13 is a big part of why Eren definitely can fit the role. Go back to when she went through like the whole like past scenes where Anatha was with the black hair. She found out the truth that she made a potion. She found out that Indred Vitus was her father, and how as a child she had to keep tabs on the both of them, yada yada yada. She got stressed out to the point that the archetype was awakening within her. Indred had to intervene and since of course the archetype wasn't at full power because it's split amongst the other 3 children, Indrid was able to win, I would say, with ease. And because of the risk of the others waking up and going against him, he locked them up in the unknown dimension. That's where Aaron brought up the quote to Maria that, "Don't you dare lose hope. Don't you forget about what's about to happen. Maria, don't lose hope." And then she brought up some stuff about, like Indrid, like justice will, and then Indrid, whatchamacallit, sent her away, and he's like, justice is not real. Cool speech. I'm sad that I had to do it, but yeah, bye-bye. And then he goes and does whatever. So yeah, well, not just like whatever, but does this thing that Anitha no longer remembers the other children, but more so remembers Maria only. So yeah, but anyways, it could be a thing that going through all of those emotions, Madam X could be Aaron, and she relayed a message like she did many, many years ago to Maria, and she's like, "Don't lose hope. Do not lose hope." And she's simply somebody that is willing to be the bad guy, to be the devil, whatever you want to call it. Because she's said it before, like, if I gotta be this person, I will, if it means stopping Indrid. She said that during V13's story. And you see the scene where Canon is being tormented by, Indrid, or at least a image of Indrid, not the actual Indrid, of course. And Aaron and Indrid kind of go into battle with the lightning bolt effect, and they finally wake up from the whole thing that Sierra caused, and of course the story kind of plays on out with them, giving them, Canon hugging her and realizing some stuff about himself, herself, and so on. But anyways, whatchamacallit, I lost my train of thought there. Alright, I'm back. Sorry for the pause there. I wanted to pause to try to remember where I was going. I just don't remember where I was about to go with that. But anyways, let me just go back to this then with Madam X. Overall, there's a lot of variables that, again, kind of like connect with the two. It could simply be a thing that could be Aaron, and in this time, she's playing the role as the villain to get back at Indrid. Go back to the underwater dive spot within Heliojack Island, where I forgot the exact lines, but actually, I can actually fly there and give the exact line that it says instead of trying to remember it. Yeah, let's do that real quick. Now, I will add this as well. There's some people that might be thinking with some of these theories, the whole Father I've Lost scene at Black Steeple, I've now forgotten about that. And I will get a little bit into that at some point. Here we go. Model of the Cocoon. There's the book. It seems to be a book full of notes. It's titled Yveltal's Demise. Read. So it goes over its height and all of that. The Yveltal is the key. The Yveltal is how he knows. Yveltal is how he spies. He stalks us. There seems to be another section, one to keep reading. Upon the death of Yveltal, it sucks the life force from every living thing around it and then reverts into a cocoon. I believe that this is his trap. It's a fail-safe, a way to get back if all else fails. I have to find a way to destroy Yveltal while also preventing the impending doom that is a result of its own demise. If I can do that, then I win. So I do think with the whole demise thing, I think that also, by the way, fits into why they're trying to do the whole project with the Zen Purchase at Grand Dream City, because I think they're going to try to do something with Yveltal, cause a lot of death. It's going to try to take the life force from all of that, but then that's when she's going to try to do something to, you know, end that whole failsafe thing and do her thing. I think that is probably what's going to go down and why that project is a thing. But also with the process of that, she, well, more so Cassandra wants to use it for her. Well, you know, let's stick to the Madam X thing, not admin stuff. We'll do that later. But yeah, and also like a fun little thing that I want to add, because like I can't get enough of how creative Jane is with this game. It's incredible the mind that he has with all sorts of, you know, the loop-de-loops and pulls. And your shoes are looking good. Yeah, sorry about that, but there's so many different like layers, so many different loops that he's created, and they connect so well with one another. Because go back to, well, right, I'm gonna tie the Zen Purchase Grand Dream City project to a smaller project, Black Steeple. That's why at the beginning they brought it up before. I think Neve was like, I don't care if it works or not. We really don't. This is just a test to see what happens. And they got the results. And I think that's when they fully went through with the whole Grand Dream City thing. That Black Steeple project was just that at a smaller scale. So just a little thing to add there that I think is, you know, a thing that Jane wanted to do. And if I'm wrong on that, then I'm wrong, but I think that is a thing. In my mind. Anyways, though, yeah, I mean, ultimately with the whole Aaron idea, I'll just conclude it with this. Is it possible? Absolutely. There's many things that fit, but I think there's just something else at play. I just do. Now, before I forget about the whole Father I've Lost, I know a lot of people are like, well, it really can't be, you know, anybody else but maybe Aaron or an alternate Malia, or at least the daughter of Indrid and Anatha. It has to be that because of Father I've Lost. And I kind of want to say yes and no to that, because Father I've Lost is very vague to me at the very least, because while it could be referring to the Yveltal / Vitus, it could just be something else entirely. Going back to the, I know we stemmed away from the whole unknown character idea, but I want to go back to that for a moment. It could simply be an unknown character. What if it's the daughter of Lord Zenodin? And I know I brought it before, Lord Zenodin could have been Vitus from the Mirror region for some reason, because I brought it before, like Nimra, Mirror region. There's got to be a connection with that, but I don't know what it is exactly, because there's not a lot said about Mira itself. But anyways, though, to get on the unknown character again for just a little bit, because this is something that I forgot to brought up. What if it's because of the nuclear power plant? What if something happened that caused her to have the suit as like a life support because of that, and she's trying to do what's right from her for her father, Lord Zenodin? Just an idea. But anyways, back to the whole Aaron thing. And Father I've Lost. You honestly could be right, and that's all I can really say on that. You could be right, and it probably is that. But I just think to myself, Father I've Lost. And I forget, has Melanie said the same thing in the Doom timeline when... I think she did, so... And I would assume she's gotta be referring to the Yveltal. Because again, even Madam X within that timeline brought up the thing, you weren't fit for the role of being like a princess or whatever. I don't know. I don't know. But let's leave it at that. That can get into like some other stuff. And sorry, I had the mic there. Let's stay on track for now. But yeah, I think we'll conclude it with the whole Aaron idea there. So the next idea that runs to my mind is kind of a odd idea. And I know some people may be like, okay, he's really lost it now. And to be fair, I've lost it many years ago. But anyways, my next idea is a combination of the children. Maria, Alan, Alice, and Irina. What if it's a thing that the archetype itself was like, alright, we're fusing together. I want to get Indrid. We're done with the games, man. Not doing it with you no more. You caused a lot of mayhem. You've disrupted the balance of, life and death. I'm done. We're not doing this no more. Because remember, within this game, there is no Zygarde, so there's nothing that's keeping things balanced. Vitus clearly won against Nimra. The light and dark kind of shifted right now, that death definitely has the upper hand in this whole equation. Now, of course, you do see like Nimra's like spirit like appear within different segments within the game. How that all works, that I don't know. And I'm not really here to get into that right now, so let's steer away from that for the moment. But for obvious reasons, we know that Vitus is definitely still out there, and he clearly did win against Nimra. But what if there came a point that they just fused together and they're missing that final piece? Malia. Go back to my one theory of the two girls splitting, Marionette and Malia. They need that final piece to be the full archetype. So then they can feel confident enough to do what they gotta do against Indrid and yada yada yada. Now, there is something that I want to bring into the equation, and I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here because I wanted to bring this up later in the video, but there may be some people that might be thinking, why? Why go after the main crew when we have a very similar goal? And I think a big element is potentially they want to do it themselves, but also not only that, we're trying to preserve this world. Team Zen is trying to unravel this world and break it to the core, literally, I believe. I think it's not just Indrid. I think it's something more than that. I've always felt, and I'll keep it vague for now, but later I'll get more into detail on my thoughts and feelings on that. But I really do think that they potentially just want to stop Viraya. This entire game, this predetermined timeline, they want to unravel it and then truly be free. And our group, let's say if we do win, then the game still technically continues with Viraya. I think for them, they're trying to, do things to reset the world and get down to the core and then try to do their thing against them so that they can truly be free. But with us, in a way, it causes issues on that. I don't know how I'm gonna word it with what I just said there is I feel like I'm on the right track, but I'm not fully there. There are things that I'm getting wrong. There are things that I'm missing. That's how I will word that. But back to the one theory though. Do I think it's that? I don't really know. But I mean, like, I can see similarities with the characters, with like the personalities, like Alan with his unknown, why am I saying, oh right, the unknown battle where he battled the Blade Star Grunt. Well, that was taken out, but you can revisit that scene within, oh goodness, what's his name? Aizen. Aizen allows you to replay that scene, and he seems to be really fast with his abilities and whatnot, I think it is, with the whole archetype thing. So, I don't know, Madame X is a fast woman. You saw how she, you know, dodged a lot of those attacks from Happy, and we all know what happened to Nancy, unfortunately, so there's that. Aaron, I don't need to get into that. There's a lot of similarities personality-wise. Alice, Alice is Alice. I don't know how she fits personality-wise with Madame X, but, I don't know, maybe there's some personality trait we're not seeing. But I guess you can say there might be, like, a few things, because, like, Alice can get mad if things don't go her way, kind of, because of like how she was with the whole thing, wanting to keep her trapped with it, not like Madame X but Aaron trapped in the world. She was upset when she left. I mean, that's kind of a stretch. And then Marionette, maybe there's a part of her within that. Now, I know it's kind of a stretch, but I mean, to be fair, Dr. Isha is a good example that it is possible, because he had his son's mind within the body and did all that kind of stuff. So I mean, a whole fusion idea of all the children being one entity because of the archetype, and they're trying to get the final piece being Aaliyah. I can see it. I can honestly see it. I don't think that is what this is, but it would be a really interesting twist, I will say that. And I do think it's definitely a possibility that, as I've said multiple times, it wouldn't be surprising if that is the case. Next character on the list is, again, another character that I'll just flat out say it is one of the more least likely on my list. I think literally most other characters make more sense than this one, but it's an idea, so I'll throw it out there. The Knight of Nimra. Go back to the Pokemon War, where Nimra brought up the story that she had a knight and he fell. Now, yes, I know immediately he fell being a he. Madame X is clearly a female. Mosley pretty much brought up, I think Mosley within the Doom timeline called her a he, and she was like, I'm a female, and Mosley's like, you're a woman? And that pretty much concludes that we know her gender. But anyways, I don't know, it could be a thing with this timeline that, I don't know, somehow some weird reincarnation thing, maybe something else at play. I don't really know. The only reason I connect the two is because they're both, I would safely assume that the knight would have been good with sword combat, similar to Madame X. That's the only connection that I really have, honestly. So again, I don't think it is that by any means, but I mean, it could be the knight mad at Android, wants to get back at what he's done to Nimra. I don't really know. I don't have much else to really say on that idea, so just an idea. I wanted to throw it out there and give out all sorts of possibilities, even if it's very unlikely. The next one is also a highly unlikely one, but I think it's worth a mention. Nimra herself. I don't have a lot of connections to really go about this one as well with Madame X, honestly. The only thing that I could really come up with is similar to Anju. Vitus could have done something that really corrupted her to the core, and now she's Madame X and she has a more evil personality and wants to get back at Indra and yada 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 for disrupting the balance of life and death. That's all I gotta say on that. The biggest reason though on why I think it's not Nimra at all is simply because I think Nimra is clearly Nim. I think what really went down was she lost. She probably got sacrificed because Indra has a thing for that clearly, and pretty much created Nim being the storm. And I believe with all of that going down, that's why Hiyoshi was the center point of Storm 9. Nimra lost, Nim was made and molded to be the Storm 9, and we all know what happens afterwards. So yeah, again, I think Nim is more so potentially a reincarnation of Nimra, but unfortunately has been turned into the storm itself, and to sustain life she has to devour souls and yada yada yada. So I'll leave it at that. There's not really a lot else I can really say on the matter of Nimra, honestly. I could probably try to say some more stuff, but with Nimra, like, could it be her? Yeah, it can. That one I think is highly unlikely, but if it turns out to be that, it would be slightly surprising, yes, but at the same time, I can see it. The next one is also one that I'll say flat out, I don't think it's this, but if it turns out to be this character, again, like, I can see it is what I'll say. It wouldn't be super surprising, similar to Nimra. Well, I guess no, that's not fair to say. It would be a little surprising. I think I said it earlier. It would be a little bit surprising, but again, she is a candidate that I think can fit the role, even if it's highly or very unlikely in my opinion. Anyways, the next character, Varaya. I don't have much of a connection at all to Varaya to Madam X at all. It could just be a thing that Varaya's like, ooh, I want to play a villain, because why not? It's my game, it's my story, and I get to do whatever I want. That's all I gotta say on that. I don't think it's that at all. I think clearly Varaya just wants to have fun. It could potentially be a thing that... Let me just try to connect some random stuff, because why not? I don't know. Varaya's like, hey yo, because of the whole overseer thing and the RC statue and all these different variables, I made these worlds. I get to have fun and do what I want, but I'm kind of trapped within the system, guys. I'm not actually dead, and I actually want to be out of this Arceus statue thing. I want to be able to touch grass. I want to feel water. I want to find the world that works best for me, that I can be free, and yada yada yada. And is playing as Madam X to try to find a world that can actually unravel things, that she can also be free and not, you know, be freed and then end up in a world that cannot really sustain itself because of the whole blooming and wilting thing. That is a big stretch, honestly. I think it is. What I can see more likely is her creating the character of Madam X to make that happen. I don't know, honestly. And to be fair, maybe she doesn't want to be free. Maybe she just wants to stay in the core, the system, whatever you want to call it, and just be like, woohoo, I get to make millions of versions and worlds and yada yada, and I can't ever be bored because I'm here. I'm in my own lane. I can't really die, so I'm chilling, I'm vibing, you know, I'm cool. So yeah, now of course I think there will come a point that we will confront and finally conclude something with Varaya. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know. Because I know there are things with like the karma points and the blooming and wilting thing, but that, I know I'm deviating from the main topic, but it's such an interesting, sorry, that's my chair. I'm gonna get a little more comfy. There we go. Anyways, though, whatchamacallit, it really begs the question, like, is blooming and wilting actually a thing? Now, I do believe in wilting, but blooming, if you get, you know, the karma points, you do all the good stuff and all these kind of things, your world is out of my control. I don't know if I buy that from her, though. I really don't know, because, like, think about it. She's done it with so many worlds. You're telling me out of all of the versions, all the worlds that she's created, not one was able to do that? I have a hard time believing that. Because again, I go back to the V, and they brought up the thing that I'm from this world and I need the nano drive to make my world, you know, be able to be saved and whatnot. So I think that's a clear indicator on all of that. And even go back to, I know it's not exactly the same as like different worlds, but I do believe that the different versions, like V1, V2, V3, V4, and so on, is Varaya doing her thing, recreating, redoing, taking away stuff, adding stuff, and she's just in a whole different league in of itself, is what I'm just trying to say. And just to conclude it real quick, can I see it being her? Maybe. I just think there's much more likely candidates. That's all I can really say on that whole thing. Next up, it's not really a character per se, but an idea. I can't really get a lot into it, but I'll just keep it simple and say an interceptor from a different timeline. Ever since Adrest awakened our power and we also have a suit of armor, it's definitely not the same as Madam X, but clearly she has something similar, which makes me wonder, is she an interceptor from a different timeline that clearly had some speakings with Varaya, and maybe that's why she potentially knows of Varaya's existence and wants to stop Varaya ultimately, but for now she's like, okay, I've been given the role of the interceptor, and my role is to cause oblivion. My role is to stop Indra, to make, you know, the balance and all of that work out and the way that Varaya wants it to be. And you got Interceptor there, and us being the Interceptor as well. Which one is actually going to win in the end and cause like a miracle and hope and yada yada? Is it us, or is it going to be more so them and they cause oblivion and so on? Now, who that interceptor could be, again, it could be anybody. It could be Piano Lady as an interceptor. She got a second chance to replay that piano, to save it from the SS Oceana, and yeah, that's all I can really say. I don't know, but I just thought I would throw the idea that she could be an interceptor. Not necessarily a specific character, but it's an idea. Do I think she's an interceptor? I'm 50-50 on the idea, honestly. Because there are many different things that she is aware of within the world, similar to how the interceptor knows things that others don't. But at the same time, there's also things that Madam X has proven and shown that she does not know everything about the world. Go back to the pyramid, where she's like, I didn't know that the Jewel of Life was in here. But she also did know that this was a ship, the pyramid itself, you know, because she brought up the thing that it's a ship. If you guys mess with the panels, it may have left this wretched planet. Now that reminded me, the planet thing, that I think is a very interesting line. And even with like the moon base as well, that's a whole nother thing. That actually reminded me of that. Let me make a note of that for when I do the other segment about just talking about stuff. Moon base, Madam X calling the planet wretched. Now again, she could simply be saying that because of the whole predetermined stuff, or because of Indrid being within the world. Yes, probably so, but I will make a note and probably talk more about it at another point, so yeah. Next up, actually, what are we at? Yeah, let me... Yeah, let me do one more. I'll do one more and then we'll stop there, and then I'll do another segment tomorrow. I think that'll be okay. One or two more, we'll see. Sorry, hitting the mic there. Anyways, next character, Katsu. Now, again, I don't think it's Katsu, but Katsu is an interesting idea. I will say that, because it's more so the idea of whatchamacallit, trying to restore the mirror region. What if Katsu is Madam X? Because the Rejuvenation Co., the building within Hiyoshi City, is the same building that is on Reddit Island. It's the same one. So there is a connection there. It could simply be a thing that Katsu's like, this isn't our home. Mirror region is where we all came from. We migrated here. Remember the nuclear power plant? I want to send this to oblivion, but I want to go back home. I want to restore the mirror region. I need that light to make that happen. Now, how is she aware of the golden light and all these kind of variables? I don't know. It could be something as wacky as, I'm an ancestor of Araya and I know these things. I don't know. I don't know. Some guy in a taco truck could have been like, psst, Katsu, let me tell you a story about the archetype man. You're gonna love it. And Katsu's like, whoa. I'll take a burrito and a couple tacos, by the way. And I don't know. There's so many different things that it could be, but I don't know. I can kind of see it, but I also don't see it because of one big reason. Nastasia. On the airship, Nastasia brought up when she's trying to like fix Gira and some other stuff, she was like, man, like my mother could have done this with like her eyes closed, and I could barely do this without like twitching out and yada yada. And then she brought up the lines, there's only something that I can do that Madam X can't. If Madam X was Katsu, then why can't she do that? So that's a big reason why I don't really think it's Katsu. But at the same time, maybe because of the suit, something happened to Katsu and she's no longer in her prime, and it could be something like that. Because I know she brought up again the same line that I brought up multiple times. If it wasn't for this confounded suit, I don't really know. But also at the same time, Katsu, I believe, had blonde hair. Madam X clearly has black hair, so yeah. But again, a lot of characters have shown that they can dye their hair as well, so there is that. I don't know. It's a more unlikely idea, but I think it's worth a mention. So yeah. Yeah, let's do one more, because why not? Because this one isn't going to be a super lengthy one. Mosley. Again, very similar with a lot of the other ones. I don't think it's Mosley, but I think Mosley is worth a mention. Go back to the whole Narcissus scene during chapter 4, if I'm not mistaken. You go down and you find out the truth about Indrid with the Wispy Tower, also known as the Radio Tower. Mosley says some really interesting lines there, where she was like, well, once upon a time, what was it? I was like this, but then I got turned into like a girl, and some like witch did this to me and cursed me and yada yada yada. And Narcissa was like, oh, Mosley, you have such a funny imagination. It was some sort of lines like that. I don't remember the exact lines, but it really makes me wonder, is there any truth to that? Now, it could very simply just be a little girl that is just saying wild and wacky stuff. But this game has shown so many just wild and wacky stuff that I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Okay, sorry, I had to do it. But anyways, by the way, great song, by the way. I'm sure everyone has heard that song. It is a beautiful one. But anyways, it just makes me wonder, though, is there some truth to what Mosley is saying? I don't know. But again, can I really connect it to her being Madam X? There's almost nothing that I can say that really connect that idea, so yeah, I think I will leave it at that. And it's just more so I'm throwing it out there. It's possible, but I've said it so many times, anything is possible. So yeah, anyways, I think I'll stop there for now, and I'll record the next part tomorrow because it is getting late for me. As much as I want to continue with where my head is right now, it's best to stop here. So yeah, love you guys, take care, and I'll see you in literally like a few seconds. For me it'll be like a day, but for you guys just a few seconds. Good morning, and I have returned yet again to record another segment of this very lengthy theory video. Before we do get started, I do want to give a small disclaimer at this portion going forward. I just woke up not too long ago, and this week has been incredibly busy. I really wanted to make more progress and honestly had this video finished by, you know, at an earlier point. Voice correct there, sorry. But that's just not what happened, so yeah, it is what it is. It really just sucks because, well, it's a good thing, but also it just kind of like sucks for me with like YouTube and just like other stuff, because it's like I just have so much time taken away by just working so much, and I don't really have that time to really get into like YouTube and a lot of other stuff like I used to. It is what it is. It's just a part of growing up, and yeah. Anyways, again, just a small disclaimer. If my mind isn't really fully there, apologies. My mind is like in the clouds right now. So much happened this week, and nothing like bad, but just extremely just busy and a lot of stuff going on that end. And with me just waking up maybe 10 something minutes ago, I already know my mind's not fully there. We'll see how this goes. But anyways, let's continue on. So, the next character on my list is Crayola. Now, I don't know if I pronounced that name correctly, but if you don't remember Crayola, if I'm not mistaken, there was only one mention of her, I guess, soul within Chapter 3, the Marionette segment of the game, where you venture around Indrid's home. Now, there was two bookcases. One that talked about, you know, a woman with dual crystal swords, if I'm not mistaken. And there was another one on, I think that book was on the right side. The left side, there was a book reading about Crayola, and it talked about Crayola altar. Now, remember, there's not a lot of mentions about the altar family, but there were three big, like rich families within Avium: the Alters, the Theolias, and the Blakeries. I would safely say the Blakeries were at the top, but the Alters, unfortunately, they were kind of fading out. Their name wasn't as prominent as it used to be. But anyways, back to Crayola more specifically. Crayola was mentioned in the book, something, now I don't remember exactly what it said, but what was it again? Something about like the soul was like left at ease. She went around and like terrorized like the family. I don't know if she attacked the region and whatnot, but I know she wiped out a number of people because of some sort of reasons with the altars, and then she just kind of went back to sleep after her duty is done. I know it's a stretch to think of Crayola as Madam X, but The only reason that I want to make a mention of it is because I don't know if it's a similar fact that, I don't know, she finally awoken, something was going on, she's mad at Vitus for, I don't know, maybe what he did with like the family with not making them as prominent. Well, I don't know, I don't think Crayola really cared too much about the family name itself. That was more so like the family more. I don't know, honestly. I really don't know. Maybe Crayola did, maybe she didn't. Or he. I don't know if Crayola is a he or she. I don't quite remember. But, yeah, other than that chapter within the game, that's kind of the only mention of Crayola altar at all. So, yeah, do I think it's that? No, I think it's something else entirely, and I think it's just to give a little bit of a mention to the altars, to give them a little bit more of a, I guess, thing within the story, because like there's barely anything about the altars at all, so I think they kind of like just threw that in there. But I think it's still worth a mention that it could be that. Well, actually, take it back real quick. Well, not like what I said, but One Piece, where I mentioned if it's a guy or a woman. It would have to be a woman if it is Madame X. But of course, if it's not Madame X, which Crayola would be more low on the list. Then if it's not that, then I guess it could also be a man. I honestly don't quite remember, so yeah, I feel like I'm talking in circles at this point, so we'll leave it at that. I don't have a lot more to really connect the two, besides, again, it could be that the soul is unrest and she's maybe just mad at Android for who knows. There's honestly a number of reasons why anyone would hate Vitus, so that could be literally anything. So yeah, we'll kind of just keep it at that for now. The next one is a very interesting one. This one I'm actually 50-50 on. And I know it's kind of a dumb idea, and I don't know if it is this, honestly, but I think there are some things that can connect to this being a possibility. And that's Zygarde. Now, I know some people are going to be like, dude, here he goes again, sounding stupid as usual. Bro, don't you remember V13.5? Zygarde, missing. Vitus, Yveltal, Nimra, Xerneas, Host, you know, and that whole segment. And I know that's a thing, but just hear me out on some of my ideas real quick. Just hear me out on this. What if, and I'm just saying what if, Zygarde, the host, potentially isn't out of the game itself, isn't out of the story itself, and could be a thing where it's trying to create balance between light and dark, and its way of creating balance is now to go after Vitus. Nimra's out of the equation, and you see within that underground area within Kyugurin, where the protectors of Avium, they're I guess like robotic body things, whatever you want to call them, is like destroyed and whatnot. It could be a thing that Zygarde within the story, maybe the host potentially, somehow, and I know it said that he or she died within the attack at Old Earth, and they had to just jumpstart it immediately, and that's why you see a lot of the flaws within the world, where you can see like signs of it, you know, because again, like it's only half baked. That's why you see the pillars around different areas, the different like generators that's like sustaining this world of rejuvenation. So that's why you see a lot of those things, and even like the third layer building and whatnot. So yeah, anyways though, maybe it's just a thing that Zygarde is again trying to create order and balance, and it's like, okay, life is gone, death has the advantage, I have to do what I have to do to balance things out, and I don't care what stands in my way. I gotta be the one to take care of this. Now, think about it with Madam X's, you know, way of going about things. I would safely guess she wants to get rid of Vitus. Now, the whole Oblivion thing, let's not get into the whole Oblivion thing for the time being. But for now, I think one of her objectives, and I think there's many objectives, but one of them, to keep it simple, is to get rid of Vitus. I am like 99% certain that is one of the goals that she wants. Again, we looked at that underground dive spot area where I talked about, if I can do this, I can win against Yveltal. I can stop him. Now, whether that diary is from Madam X, I don't know. But I'm just saying, for an example, it could be, maybe it's somebody else, but for now, let's just go for the idea that it is Madam X. One of the goals is to stop Indrid. Anyways, let's say that Zygarde is like, okay, wait, sorry, let me jump back a little bit. The point that I'm trying to get across is our group, one of our goals is to stop Indrid, to stop Vitus, especially Aaron. Madam X has a goal that I believe, voice crack there, that I believe is trying to stop Indrid, Vitus. Why don't we two kind of like, I don't know, band together, think of something to be like, let's go get him? If that's one of your main objectives, then, you know. I think a big thing is similar to the Overseers. They have a certain way that they want to go about it by Her Majesty herself. And I think potentially with that idea, they have to go about it in that kind of manner, without any person coming in to interfere. Now, of course, to be fair to the Storm Chasers, Spacia and Tempa were using people at the time, but then slowly eliminated them one by one, until, of course, we got them with the red chain and all. Madam X, I mean, to be fair, yes, she's also using people and trying to achieve her goals just as much as they are trying to achieve theirs. And I don't know. I feel like there's more I can probably try to get into. It's really hard to really like sell this idea. And again, do I think it's an idea that, let's say somehow the host like died, but somehow their, I don't know, like body was sent into the core, into the system, whatever you want to call it, and like, again, like, is missing, but what if it's actually still there though? What if it's in the system in of itself? I don't know. I don't know, because like, even go back to the whole Ouroboros scene with I think Kieran in the old abandoned shack where oh, whatchamacallit, yeah, you battle him, and then there's like the Ouroboros, like red and blue, like pretty much devouring one another endlessly, and then I think there's like this green thing in the center as well. I don't quite remember it. I think there is, but and even go back to the beginning of the game where Malia, when we first met up with her to have a picnic with her, there was that one quote, I don't remember exactly what it said, but something about like the Ouroboros will endlessly like keep going at it and the suffering continues. I forgot exactly what that line said when she deciphered that code on the wall, but there seems to be like this thing that it's supposed to be good and bad, bad and good, light and dark, dark and light, continually, you know, in the picture, you know, but without, actually I realized I kind of said a Bob Ross quote, not exactly to what he said, but yeah, it's pretty much identical to what Bob Ross has always taught us. Light and dark, dark and light. You need both. You have to have both. It is crucial. Because if you have all white, you have nothing. If you have all dark, you have nothing. You gotta have both. And even, it's kind of cool that you can fit Bob Ross into this whole thing. Go back to the Doom world. Not the timeline one, but the one where it's literally just nothing. Where you, well, when Malia and I were like, we gotta make a miracle, make a miracle, make a miracle, we ended up in this desolate area of just nothingness. And that's so true. Without light, there's nothing there. It's just dark. It's endless. There's nothing really there. If it's all but light, there's nothing really there. You have to have both. And even Madame X, she even hinted at it on top of that pyramid when she said, hey, even if you get rid of me, do you really think the suffering and like the cycle of this endless suffering, I think that's what she said, something of the sort, will end? Like, do you really think getting rid of me would end the suffering? No, because again, I believe the system in of itself is like, yeah, we need to continue this. So, yeah. Now, again, what Varaya has cooked up entirely, I don't know. I know clearly Rejuvenation is her project, and Karma Points and the lie lines, sorry, the lie lines is a whole nother thing. The Karma Points, the blooming and wilting, that's where I want to get into. That if you get everything right, the Karma Points and all this and that, you do good and all this kind of stuff, the side quest and be a good person and yada yada yada, you get blooming. You're released from the core's, you know, control, and the system fades away and you guys can live your life. Good job, you're good. Wilting, you fail, and that desolate land that we were brought into by the scene after Make a Miracle, that is your future. And, you know, potentially, I think with the Renegade route, that's probably what it's going to lead into. I could be right, I could be right or wrong, I don't know. It could be something similar to that as well, but slightly different. I don't really know, because again, each world I would suspect is different than the other. Because again, it's proven that there are multiple worlds, multiple voice crack there, multiple versions going on. I go back to the V side quest. They are a great example when they mentioned, hey, I'm from a different timeline, I need that nano drive, that's why I'm here. Once I grab that, I'm going back to my world and I'm gonna save them because I'm an interceptor from that time. So that goes to show that Varaya is not just doing one, it's multiple worlds. How many worlds? I don't know how many, but clearly she's doing her thing. And it could be that she's just trying to find the right world, the perfect one where blooming can happen. Or maybe it's a thing that multiple worlds got the blooming ending, but the core is still in control, and she's just doing it to have fun until somebody really gets in there and pulls her on out. The game stays endless. Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. She is in that spot that she can just continue this. Now, I won't get super into like my theories on Varaya until a little bit later, so we'll kind of like leave it at that. But anyways, back to the whole Zygarde thing. It could be a thing that it's like, I'm trying to create order, I'm trying to create balance. Vitus, you did something terrible. You got rid of Nimra. And because technically I'm not fully integrated into the game in of itself, that's why you were able to do that. If my body didn't die, or if Adarest could have fully downloaded into the system to play the role of Zygarde, things would be different. But that's not what it is. But since I'm, I guess, in the data of the system, I'm going to go after you, and that will create true balance, true order. You two are gone, and it's me. Is it a stretch? Yes. But I do want to think in some way, shape, and form, and I don't think I'm getting the words right entirely either. Most of these words, the way I want to word it, maybe not with like the characters per se, maybe some of them, yeah, but a lot of the theories that I had and will continue to have down the road, I just want to think, and there's many like I've been right about, and there's just as many as I've been wrong about as I've played the game for many, many years. As long as I'm somewhat on the right track on some of them, I would be happy. So we'll leave it at that for the whole Zygarde theory. Next up is Aunt Sally. Just stick with me with this one. If you remember Lucia, one of Venom's old friends, she mentions her Aunt Sally passing away. What if, and I'm just saying what if, Aunt Sally didn't actually die? And what if she's Madam X? It could even be a thing where her soul, because of the whole system thing, reincarnated and went back to life, and now she's playing the role of Madam X. Do I think it's Aunt Sally? No. And I'm just saying this as a joke. Anyways, we'll move on now. So, the next one is a very interesting one. And this one, some people are probably gonna be like, yeah, I think you've gone off the deep end, and that's fine. I'll swim in the deep end of the pool. That's fine. That's fine. An alternate Venom or Veronica. Now, there's not a lot I can really connect with this, but there are a few things that I cannot get out of my mind. The chess scene. I think there was a thing where Madam X was kind of at the center on the far end. Same with Venom on the other end. I can't help but say there are some similarities personality-wise. Kinda, just very, not a lot, but kinda. And it's more so how they can get very impulsive and very just angry very, very quickly. What if it's a thing that it actually is about love? Now, all the time, Madam X has said, you know, like, love sucks, fear is all that matters, strength is all that matters, however she said it, you know. And what if it's nothing but like projections? What if it's nothing but just like a wall, a front she's putting up, you know, where it's actually not that at all, and she just wants to do what she can to bring back the love of her life. Now with the whole Genesis syndrome, she's dying. And I think, again, going back to the Doom timeline, she wasn't saying, I didn't want to see this happen because the world got restored. I think it's more so because, oh crap, I know she now has Genesis syndrome. The light is unlocked. Now it's full steam ahead. If she dies at any given point again, this is all for naught. Now, you can fit that idea into literally like anything, but let's stick to the whole Venom thing for now. What if, again, it's a thing where from a different world, somehow Venom is here and now, and somehow has the suit, and it could be to stop overlapping, it could be some other reasons because of Mariah and her story and her creativity, yada yada yada. But what if it is that? Now, there's not a lot more connections I could really give off of that besides the chessboard and potentially the idea that it's all just a front. That it's more so, I just want to have the love of my life back. I cannot lose her again. And I'm willing to choose the one of the millions for that. Now, it's also interesting too because that also brings up another thing. I remember Madame X when she pleaded, the rare time where she pleaded and put down the sword and said, I know my name has caused a lot of trouble. I get it. Now keep in mind, she doesn't apologize for it either, but she's like, I know what I'm doing is wrong. I know what I've done is bad. I know. I know. But if we don't work together, we can't get out of this. And even the one time where she mentions Malia, you have to choose the millions. You have to let Venom go. If it came down to it, that's what you have to do. It's for the sake of the world to continue on. I just wonder. Now that's a big thing that kind of like contradicts the idea, by the way, but it's something that makes me wonder with Madame X herself. Like, is it actually Oblivion that she truly wants? I think in a sense, yes, but I do believe, like, let's say like the idea, like again, like I don't know if her goal is to reset the world. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But if it is that, is it just a thing that this world that we're playing in now is gone, but then she's able to do a thing to reset everything? The others will be gone, but I don't know. She's able to do stuff in this new version to make it that the admins and the grunts are able to, you know, have their lives and to have their wishes granted in this new world as they get resetted. I don't know, because like the whole reset thing is really interesting to me. But anyways, let's not get into that right now. Back to Venom though. I don't know. Like the thing is, I think it's possible, and I know I'm not getting the words right. I know I'm not. But there's just a few key things that I can't really ignore with that, so I don't think it is that. But I think it's possible. I can kind of see it. Anyways, moving along. This one won't take long at all. One of the pro tags. This one, again, similar to a lot of the others, I'm like 90% no, 10% yes. And the only reason I say that it's possible is, what if it's, you know, one of the pro tags from a different like Doom time and trying to do their thing and have to wear the suit overlapping because our pro tag is in the game, but it could be a whole different pro tag like Avia, for an example, or maybe Arena. I don't know. Excuse me there. Yeah, I don't know. I think that one I'll leave at that, because I don't have a lot more to like connect with the whole pro tag idea. There's like an endless, numerous possibilities I can get into with that idea, but I'll keep it simple, just leave it at it could be one of the pro tags. The final one is a very interesting one. Her name is not really brought up at all much within the game. I think there's only one segment in the entire game that her name and I guess face and all has been mentioned, and that's Shada, the witch that helped Anatha create the potion to make Indrid fall for her. I don't want to exclude her from the equation here. Do I think it's her? No, I don't. But would it be surprising? No, not at all. It really wouldn't. The reason why I think she's a possibility to play the role, and I'll give a 70-30, 30% yes, 70% no. That's kind of my idea on it. But anyways, she's able to create these potions, these spells, whatever you want to call it, and they seem to have a lot of power. And I don't think a lot of people realize like how interesting that is. Like the power to literally make somebody love you. But the moment you die, it fades. that's very specific and very interesting. She even mentions, I can create one that can kill him. Now, I don't know how you're able to kill literally death itself, you know, because he is Yveltal. I don't know how you even go about that. So, is it a thing? Well, I mean, the book says something like, within the dive spot in Heliojack, where she's like, if I could do this, 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 then I win. I'm not gonna repeat that because I've said that thing multiple times at this point. But anyways, yeah, I don't know. It could be a thing that she had a good relationship with Anitha, because they seem to be good friends for a long while. How long? I don't know. But for a long while, I would say. And she's talked to her like, hey, like, you're my friend and all, but like, why don't you just like leave him? Go somewhere else. He's not good for you. Just go. And of course, Anitha's like, look, I don't want to go back to being poor again. I can't live that life again. I have to stay. But I want him to be the man that he used to be, not what he is now. Like, he's not the same. He's rude. He's all these other, and she's like, okay. Here's the potion here, but I could kill him. And of course she's like, no, don't do that. I'm not gonna have that. And that was pretty much that within that whole segment there when Aaron had that vision of Anitha. So yeah, and I think the witch, I think she had similar like black hair as well, to like Anitha. So yeah, it could be a thing that she's just mad that Anitha like passed on and somehow grew this ability to go after him for what he's done to her. Is it a stretch? Yes. A lot of these theories are stretches, honestly. But I do want to at least give it the mention that it deserves. With that, that's pretty much my entire list of the candidates that I think could play the role of Madame X. Again, there are so many characters that you can put into the equation. Whether it's very likely, very unlikely, it could be just that. It could be Tesla. She could be mad that her daughter Amber got up and deleted in the Renegade route by us, and she's like, grr, I'm gonna get you for doing that. Could be Piano Lady. I think I mentioned her earlier. I don't know, maybe when the piano got destroyed on the SS Oceana, she's like, I will get back at you. You will rue the day that you touch my piano. And she's just mad. Yeah, I don't know. Amber. I don't know. Patricia. Let's add her. Patty, even. Let's add her. Why not? Maybe their mother within Dark Lake Woods, or the town, you know. I think her mother's there. She has like this bakery or something. There's so many things that I like. You can, and I know like this list, it's a very lengthy list, and it's a lot of the female characters. I know, but I don't know. That's my list, and I will say at the very least, if it's not any of these, I have no clue. I'm stumped. I really don't know. I honestly don't know. But I guess to be fair, this is a pretty like wide net that I'm like throwing out into the water, so it's like, I don't know how it's not one of these people. Now again, I know there's some that are more likely than others, but if it's like not any of these guys, I wonder what Jane has cooking up. I just wonder that. I very much wonder that. Anyways, I think we'll leave it at that for the Madame X video. What are we at right now? We are at about 33, 34 minutes. Okay. So the next segment of the video is the admin talk, right? Let's go over the admins and all that kind of stuff and get like a refresher and talk a little bit about each one. and I guess a little bit about Team Zen's goals and all that kind of stuff. And then, what was it again? The third segment, I think we'll get into some notes that I have had written, or not written, but typed out on my phone. Some of them we've already gone through earlier, so if it's one that I remember that I've said, I'm not going to be repetitive about it. I'll just skip to the next one. I know there's things that I probably will mention that's not on the phone. I'll try not to too much because honestly there are so many moving parts, and I already know this video is easily going to be like 2 hours plus, so yeah. Anyways though, trying to think if there's anything else before we get into our next topic. I don't really think so. I don't think so. Alrighty, it is I from the future again. I wanted to add this at the end of the Madam X Identity portion of the video and simply just say thank you guys so much for watching. Apologies for this video being very lengthy. There is a lot to get into and talk about. I did not anticipate it being this lengthy, but it is what it is. As I said at the beginning of the video, there will be 2 parts. This is the first part here, and then the second part will be uploaded at a later date. So yeah, I love you guys, take care, and I'll see you all in the next video. Good morning.